Sumit, Neeraj, great to have you with us. We've been monitoring closely all the action live from Davos, the World Economic Forum, and no surprises, of course, cryptocurrency, Web 3.0, some of the main talking points and themes at the World Economic Forum this year, taking the world by storm as always. Tell us to you what have been some of the most interesting takeaways so far. What's been resonating with you as leaders in this space? Sumit?
Sure, Aabha. I think it's very interesting to see a topic which was not very frequently talked about in some of these forums. A couple of 2-3 years back now is a very important point of discussion. Crypto is no longer on the sidelines. In fact, what we are seeing is that it's a major sort of point of discussion across the global leaders, right? In the forum in Davos. I think very, very exciting to see the this pace at which developments are happening and the kind of importance, right, it's getting. Of course, it's very important as the industry matures. It's very important for the leaders to come together and discuss about the pros of the technology and how can we make sure that whatever apprehensions are there in the minds of people, how can we solve that collaboratively and in such a global forum. If people are coming together, I think that's also good for the overall growth of the industry, because then you can have globally coordinated efforts to make sure that the industry grows organically, keeping in mind some of the concerns that in terms of money movement, how can we solve that and how can we bring together some of the leaders and the countries. I think that's very important and it's getting the necessary attention, and I think events like this helps a lot in terms of taking the industry forward at a much faster pace and making sure that the industry grows with a lot of maturity and alignment. I think very, very happy to see that. And then I was reading some of the articles, like, I mean, it's something that a lot of people are talking about. People have created communities there and discussing about their learning. So very organically, the discussion is coming out, which is pretty good to see.
I think about 90% of the market globally, and correct me if I'm wrong on the percentage, is still unregulated. The fact that we're seeing companies, lawmakers converge and discuss some of the developments on this front. What do you feel are going to be some of the future takeaways? You've talked a little bit about, for example, how the crypto industry can build billions of dollars of trading volumes when it comes to the CBDC. Talk to us a little about that and what the future holds.
Sure. So, Aabha, I think one thing we need to understand is that crypto as an asset class cannot exist in vacuum. It's a global asset class fundamentally, right? I mean, for example, gold does not belong to one country or jurisdiction. It's a global, right? Similarly, crypto as well. So I think it's very important, as I mentioned, right? It's very important to have a global coordinated effort, and Government of India has also, there has been sort of communication from their side that they would want to have a collaborative approach to crypto regulations, which is great. I think which is in the right direction, because you can't do something in vacuum and then make ensure that all the problems are taken care of. I think the way to solve that problems is by making sure that all the countries are sort of coming together and following those principles, and just like how we have in the in the financial markets as well, right? Countries which don't fall and follow those conditions are they're in gray list. And similarly, I think that is how the space will also evolve. Just like we have BSA, we will have a travel rule where crypto movement will be traced, and then government will know how the capital is flowing. I think fundamentally that is important. Now, talking about value addition, I think very, very we are talking about CBDC, right? Now, any country which government which takes step forward in that direction in terms of CBDC, there's massive revenue potential and will take the country much ahead in the digital adoption race. For example, right, when we talk about CBDC now, if CBDC is used as the base, right, this standalone can add billions of dollars of trading volume by just adopting that in the exchange ecosystem or the digital VD exchange ecosystem. So that's very exciting. Plus, CBDC has like two sides. One is on the wholesale side, where you will have a lot of benefits. I think billions of dollars can be saved by just solving for the remittance, right? Billions of dollars, and that's basically straight additional revenue the government is making, right? So there are various ways in which CBDC can add to government's revenues, plus making sure that the vision of a digital India will get accelerated with the adoption of CBDC and crypto ecosystem. The rate at which there's ground of movement happening crypto, I think the first wave of customers that will very easily adopt to CBDC is the people who are already into crypto, right? And as an exchanges, we can play a very good role in terms of making sure that CBDC is adopted in the masses, right? Apart from the public private partnership, I think once CBDC is out there, one of the very important problems to solve is how can we drive lot of adoption of CBDC? How can we have more and more developers build solutions on top of that stable coin layer, right? I think that's very exciting to see. And in terms of revenue, I think definitely very exciting opportunity and I would love to see government coming up with CBDC and going deeper into that, so that Indian government can overall, right, one is on the revenue side, we can move much faster. Second is in terms of adoption, like India can really become a $5 trillion economy and become very digital, and all of these financial problems that we currently see will become very open. So it's a very open, transparent and efficient system to run a financial ecosystem. I think CBDC can play a very important role in that. Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of areas of opportunity and revenue potential with CBDC project.
No, amazing. That sounds incredibly powerful. And I can see Neeraj also nodding in agreement. Neeraj, I also wanted to, get your thoughts on Web 3.0 and how companies are planning to leverage, some of these technologies in ways outside of trading as well.
Sure. So Web 3.0, I think the main value that it provides, fundamentally is trust. Because it's driven by blockchain, right? And blockchain fundamentally solves for the issue of trust, right? To elaborate it further, trust is a major cost center on internet, right? When you book a cab, say Uber, there's a trust issue of how do you trust a driver you don't know? How do you trust someone who's providing you a room on Airbnb when you don't know, on Airbnb, when you don't know the host? So the companies in between solve for the trust between the consumer and the service provider, right? So, and then there is a trust issue on social networks, fake accounts, right? And so for that, Twitter and large social networks solve for trust, again on the social networks as well. Blockchain does it. Blockchain, and the Web3 can solve for the same problem very, very cheaply. The cost of solving for this trust is very low on blockchain and Web3 technologies. So of course, it has started, the revolution has started from finance industry, which is, which has adopted Web3 very, very quickly. We know it from decentralized finance space that has grown by leaps and bounds in just 4 years. It has grown to a value of roughly $250 billion at peak, and currently stands at $110 billion, the decentralized finance space. So and I think Web3 is gradually getting into other industries. For example, Instagram and Twitter, these large social networks are experimenting with NFTs, to again solve for the trust, because if you have NFT, it cannot be copied, so it cannot be replicated, so no one can fake your profile. It becomes very cheap, that way. So I think it's going to grow from here, and we will see multiple Web2 internet applications migrating to Web3 applications. They are already observing that trend. World moves towards more efficiency. When things are more cheaper, the world will automatically move towards those kind of applications. So I think that is the pull factor of Web3, and we can already see that trend of migration. A lot of investments happening in Web3 space. This is the time when infrastructure is getting built. I think the limiting factor is the speed of blockchain. It's still not as good as centralized systems. Like it still cannot cater to the large internet use cases, but that is improving very, very rapidly. So I think there are a couple of limiting factors on blockchain, which are being worked upon. A lot of investment is happening. There's a large community of developers working on the problem solving of scaling up the blockchain and Web3 technologies, right? And I think it's a natural path but eventually this is going to overtake a lot of Web2 applications.
Okay. Neeraj, what do you feel explains, why some businesses have been a little slow to adopt to metaverse? And I'm just speaking globally as well. Is it just one of those processes of adoption? How do you feel perhaps one can build awareness of how this technology can really help to leverage business strength?
Yeah, in 2021 and 2, there was a lot of buzz around metaverse. So much in the news, in the media, and we have talked so much about metaverse, but today I am not into the metaverse. Like personally, I consider myself a tech savvy guy, a tech savvy person, but even I am not using VR headsets. I think there are a couple of challenges here. So firstly, VR headsets and the metaverse apparatus is not very friendly. Having that on your face for like 4 hours, a lot of users complain that it gives you headaches, and the video quality, etc., inside the headsets are not that great. I mean, the 4K videos we are accustomed to on our mobile phones, it's not there on the VR headsets yet. So we spend time on video calls, watching videos, exploring our social network, right, booking a ride, etc. So shopping online. I think these are the places, these are the avenues we spend our time, and these use cases will reach metaverse, but the apparatus and hardware, is still, I think, a little away from solving these use cases in a better manner. So I think that is where we are. But the good part is, in 2021 alone, 10.4 billion was invested in metaverse related companies by VCs, right? And then Facebook has changed its name to Meta, and there are a lot of reports suggesting that a heavy amount of investment is being made in improving the technologies, especially the headset, the VR headset, etc. And Google, IBM, all the top companies have invested heavily, right? So I think it's a gradual path. Even mobile technologies took 10 years to develop, from feature phone to the smartphones of today. So I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe next few years we'll see more use cases of metaverse and the headsets in our common lives. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, one of the key things about having a dialogue on a platform or stage like the World Economic Forum is that it really brings in all stakeholders. And Sumit, just circling back really to what you were saying earlier, and you made your point with regards to the CBDC, but in terms of really how public-private partnership can come together, where the private sector can play a role, in terms of building trust, awareness, innovation, perhaps, other segments as well, consumer protection, transparency. I mean, whatever you feel is really the way forward. Share with us a little bit more on how you see this ecosystem evolving, because one part of it is setting the framework, and then of course it's also then winning over the government or regulators in different countries.
Sure, absolutely. I think very, very important point to cover, Aabha. And see, this space is completely technology driven, right? It's fundamentally built on top of technology, and what I believe is that the rate at which technological innovation is happening is accelerating over time. What used to took like 20 years, in 2000s is now happening in like 3-5 years. So the rate at which we are adopting these new technologies is very fast. It's increasing over time. We don't know how next 20 years will look like. Maybe, Neeraj was talking about metaverse. We might start shopping in the metaverse, right? And you don't have to go to the malls, but you can actually at your homes like start browsing. So the rate at which things are happening is pretty fast. And what I believe fundamentally is that this can happen much faster when you have the larger community, right, building and doing innovation on top of that, right? It cannot happen that, okay, government comes up with CBDC and, of course, I mean, that is one way, but the rate at which innovation will happen in that would be far, far, far slower. Then what can happen if there's a public-private partnership where there's an open ecosystem, and then people are allowed to innovate and build solutions on top of that. Imagine there's a programming language, and if there are like 100 people who understand, who are allowed to develop and build solutions on top of that programming language, versus an open programming language or open source, where millions of people are developing and building solutions on top of that, it's a no-brainer that what will grow up much faster. So I think, simply saying, I think it's very, very important to make it open so that people are allowed to build on top of these technologies, and it's it should not remain in a closed ecosystem. It should be open. That is where we feel that CBDC, whenever government comes up with that, right, if it is a public blockchain, or if it's public in some manner, I think that's going to drive much faster adoption of it. And whatever problems that government wants to solve, I think I've been hearing that government wants to solve, let's say, multiple problems in terms of, let's say, land records, medical records, or even making sure that whatever cases are there in the judicial system, how can we make them? So there are hundreds of problems that the government wants to solve, and the way to solve them faster is by making it open. And that is where I think the real innovation curve you will be able to experience, where and India is in a very unique advantage position, where there are like roughly 5 million developers, right? Even if 1% of that pool starts solving these problems, and there's a lot of capital which is waiting on the sidelines, will go if you solve the right problems. Just imagine the rate at which we'll be able to solve the problems leveraging blockchain technology. That's going to be phenomenal. So I think very, very bullish if we make the system very open rather than making it very closed-ended.
I think absolutely. And I think that it can impact all aspects of society, trade, for instance, sustainability, of course, security, so much, and so on and so on. I think the number I was referring to earlier from that conversation at Davos was that 90% of countries are researching and exploring now. And I think it's also a matter of really how interest has really multiplied manifold, across the world. And I just want to check with you, while several countries are in varying stages of progress and researching and announced pilots or figuring out the need for CBDC, from India, given the kind of talent pool we have and the kind of technology that we're building and have access to, can this be a global phenomenon? Can the contribution from the ecosystem here be a global phenomenon, or will it be restricted largely, to the community here? What's the potential?
Sure, I'll add a couple of points here. I think we are in a very strategic position, and governments across the world in the next 5-10 years, you mentioned about government coming together and 90% of the governments having it. I think this is going to be fundamental. Every government would want to have, as part of their strategy, right? How can we leverage blockchain and Web3 to move faster, right? If the countries are not adopting to that, they are gonna left behind. And because not like that, if you don't do it, rest of the world will not do it. It's happening already. Yeah. So naturally, it's important for every country and nation, and especially India has a very strong advantage, right, in terms of its technological strength, to come forward and do innovation on top of that. One very simple example right now, the overall financial ecosystem is dollar dominated, right? USD dominated. If leveraged strategically, right, I'll not be surprised, like if India comes up with the right policies, India can actually have a far sort of stronger command in terms of making sure that INR can be much more powerful. Not sure how long it will take, but maybe in the years to come, maybe 5, 10, 20 years, if we leverage it strategically, actually INR can have a lot more strength in the years to come. Because right now, all of this, within, let's say, crypto ecosystem, right now, people are, trading, investing, right? Why do we need to have dollar as the base? Why can't we have INR? Right? And if India comes up with the right policies, and if we, let's say, start seeing innovation on Indian CBDC or INR sort of layer, a lot of that innovation will also happen, right, in India, and it's a global. So India will essentially export technology. India will build solutions for the globe, and that's going to be very powerful. In fact, this is once in a lifetime opportunity where India can actually leverage on its strength. It has all the right ingredients, right? And the only top ingredient we need is internet and technological strength, and India has both of them.
Got it.
It's very, very important, strategy for India to take the leap forward and make sure that we use all the strengths that we have and come forward and stay ahead of the curve, because sooner or later that's going to happen. If we don't do it today, 5 years down the line, we'll have to do it. So why not do it sooner?
sooner. Well, it sounds very exciting, and you never know what the future holds, but it's definitely inspiring to have such young entrepreneurs and founders, leading some of the most revolutionary companies right now in the Indian ecosystem, and at the forefront of a global revolution, so to say. So thank you both so much for joining us. Great chatting with you as always, and we'll speak with you again very soon here on Business Today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aabha.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.